Specifically for arts education in New York City, I think it's going to be important for, all these institutions to be honest about what they want to do. Like, what is your real function? Like, what is your liberation philosophy? Like, why are you in this work? Like, this institution, why do you want to work in the Bronx with Black and brown youth? What are you trying to do? Like, what change are you trying to make? Like, let's have like a real conversation about that and then figure out, should you be there, right? Being very specific about which teachers should be working in these schools. I think that was one of the things that, in my work as a teaching artist, which was very joyful, that I had to really ask even myself, right? In terms of like looking at, the ways in which, I entered spaces. What does an authentic community engagement look like? How am I coming and how am I showing up? But I really, in reading like grant proposals, I've been, doing that a lot, like being on some, panels of now all of these like grants are coming up like, oh, this is how we do social change and this is how we're doing social justice work. And you are really just regurgitating the same language you've always used and then adding social justice to it. Right. So I just think in terms of New York City arts education, there needs to be a real conversation about what it is actually that these institutions believe that their function is, how is it actually playing out in practice, and what is the liberation philosophy? Like I said earlier, for me, I want to get free. I want to get free. I want to make sure that my people are free. And that means a lot of different things in different ways. And I really would like to see arts organizations be really honest about the work that they're trying to do and who should be leading that work on the leadership end as far as artists. So that's what I would like to see happen.
I think like, just to kind of think about the systems that we're operating within as arts educators, you have two sort of things. There's like the overall sort of educational system or the educational industrial complex. And then there's also the nonprofit industrial complex. Neither system was built to see Black and brown people thrive. So now we are already working within a system that has been established for the function of not developing a criticality in BIPOC students, but complicity. So, thinking about that, largely systematically, right? Thinking of drilling that down like individually, I think a lot of us have to ask ourselves some very deep questions on like an individual level, very similar to what Robyne is saying. In this moment in time, why am I at this institution to do this work? There's, especially if there's an acknowledgement around what this industry was built for and who it was intentionally built to leave outside of it. Why are you here today to carry this cross? Are you functioning in the role that is optimal for the liberation of your people? If you are not, what are you going to do about it? And this is going back to what Toya was saying earlier about, the role of other BIPOC leaders in this time as well. While Malcolm and Martin were running in the streets, Thurgood Marshall was running within the system. So, you think about it in like a sports sense, there's like, you have a basketball team, you have an inside game, and then you have an outside game. Where are you? And are you in the best position to see your team win? And part of the problem in that it too is like this idea again of criticality. Some people may not be aware of all of their skills and their gifts that they've been given, or in positions to be able to optimize those skills and those gifts. I'll speak for myself real quick. When I used to work at your favorite nonprofit, I knew I enjoyed speaking. I knew I enjoyed being in front of people. I knew that was something that I could do and do effectively. What I didn't necessarily know was that, that could be a whole career in itself, but I knew that that was something that could be done. And we hosted this huge event every year, right? So if I can see that in myself, coworkers around me can see that in me, yet still at the institutions, the people in power and leadership were not giving me those opportunities to do it. I look at that and I go, again, this system was not built to see people like me shine. So I have one or two options, right? I can keep pushing against that until eventually, people start giving in and they allow me to be able to perform. Or I can say, no, this is my birthright to use my gift. This did not come from arts education or the nonprofit industrial complex. This was an ancestral gift that was given to me to inspire and to help others. So how am I going to use it? What is your gift? And think about which one of your gifts will make room for you. The ancestors have already given you everything that you need. Like James Baldwin said, our crowns have been bought and paid for. All you have to do is wear it. It's time for us to, you ask what changes need to happen. It's time for all of us to start wearing our crown. And we do that individually and we do that collectively.
I would also add, I can't add to that. That was dope, Durell. I don't have nothing to add to that. This is just saying, and we have to redefine impact because there's so much impact and how big, how many, how much. We serve 10,000 million kids, or our organization is like a $10 million organization, when a lot of the really authentic groundwork are being done by the smaller organizations. And I give you a real concrete example. I'm gonna just name some names. So I think it was last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, there was an international teaching artist conference, right? And it decided to focus on social justice. And I was shocked. Well, I shouldn't have been shocked. I wouldn't say I was shocked. I was like, for real? In terms of who were the lead organizations that were going to be leading this conference. And it was Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, Dream Yard. Shout out to Dream Yard. Worked at Dream Yard many years. I know there's a lot of Black women who built that social justice work. Myself, Ama Kojo, Renee Watson, shout out. And I don't know if it was like Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, Dream Yard. And was there a fourth one? I don't know who the fourth organization was. Maybe it was. But I was like, really, y'all all...
Table.
Which one?
The round table was
okay. But I'm like, y'all really all got together and thought that these large white institutions led by white people should be the institutions that are going to be the presenting partners of this social justice work, where we have so many smaller institutions, mid-sized institutions led by people of color who've been doing that work. Like, how did that get past so many people? And I reached out, I reached out to Eric Booth or emailed, and it was like, oh, it was about who had the capacity, right? Who had the capacity to be able. So I'm like, do you understand the ways in which small, mid-sized nonprofits, the kind of reach that we have, the kind of organizing skills? No, it was really this kind of co-option again of this work that, I remember back in 2008, I first started, working at Dream Yard, and I was talking about social justice. People thought I was talking about kids turning over tables. You want to have the kids over here turning over tables, doing so. Like, again, you stay over here. And it wasn't until me and my Black and brown colleagues did the work, and people saw the results of the work, went out, presented the work, right? And every time you go to a conference and you go to this social justice session, that's always a session that's sold out. You can't get in, right? And it was still this kind of marginalization of the work until it was popular, until funders were ready to fund it, right? When funders wanted to fund it, now everybody's saying they're doing it. They're not changing anything that they're doing. They're phrasing the work they're already doing to get on this bandwagon. So it's that kind of like how the bigger institutions have the resources, the staff to be able to co-opt the work of smaller Black and brown institutions that are doing this work all the time. And the redefinition of what impact looks like really needs to happen. And then I agree with what Durell is saying is that we have to lead that charge. I think Toya is doing a really great job at that work of redefining what impact looks like. It's not about like how many 50 million thousand young people. You know, like for us, when I was working at Dream Yard, now that I'm at Ground School, it's like, look, we had 100% of our young people that got into a college or a university last year. Now, was it like 100 of them? No, it was not 100 of them, right? But it was a good 30 of them, and that's going to have a huge impact on their lives, right? So I think that redefinition of impact needs to happen. And I do, again, think we need to interrogate the ways in which we uphold these larger white-led institutions that have a lot of resources, who are easily able to gobble up the work, the sweat, the labor of smaller institutions and get funding for work that they don't even really know how to do.
I just want to add, just from a fiscal perspective, I want to talk finance and ethics for a second. Your favorite nonprofit got a PPP loan in the millions, and your favorite nonprofit laid off half of his staff in August. So we have an ethical problem with the institutions that take the lion's share of the funding, got the lion's share of the PPP loans, and then the very people that they just hired 5 minutes ago in the name of equity, diversity, and inclusion are now unemployed. They are hoarding money and resources so that the people on the top can keep their jobs. They are offering online the labor and work of teaching artists, genius teaching artists, genius educators, for profit, to uphold their bottom line so that their executive staff can live with their 10% pay cut. We have an ethical problem in the field. We have a problem with paying folks a fair wage. We have a problem with resting and relying upon Black women to do this racial equity work. We assume that there is no expertise involved. We assume that folks can just wake up on a Wednesday and facilitate. We don't want to pay anybody. And we assume that Black women are at the ready to just do it. And part of it is Black women need to stop saying yes. And Black women need to start invoicing. And Black women need to start having hard conversations before we engage in this work. Because the assumption is that we're just going to be here doing it for free, doing it for a cheese doodle and a Metro card. And that's not how transformation happens.
Okay. I want this conversation to keep going.
We're all fired up.
We have a time limit. So I'm gonna just move us forward. There's so much that I want to respond to, but I'm gonna move us forward. So let's think down the line. As we wrap up, let's dream for a minute, because you all are so deep in realness. It's like your blessings. But let's just dream. So Robyne, you talk about you yourself, your own personal mission is about getting free. So what does getting free mean for yourself and for those of us in this community and in the world, really? If we want to zoom out further, we certainly can do that too.
That Black people can live, be free. Like, I still have to understand and define what that means, because I've never felt it. That my son can walk outside and I cannot be afraid, that my husband can go to Rite Aid and I'm not afraid that he's not going to come back, right? So this is a basic level of being able to actually feel free, that we don't even need any institutions. Like, we don't need any institutions that we have to go to or we need to lean on, that we can create, that we can build, that we can sustain ourselves, that we can really dream, that we're not always having to be out here fighting and struggling. And that our young people can really see and hope and envision what they want for themselves without any boundaries. That we all can eat, that we all can have fresh food, that we can really be able to sustain ourselves. Black people are so creative. Black people have had to make something out of nothing all the damn time. And to be able to live in abundance, to be able to really bask in the deep well of intellectual fortitude that we bring into everything that we do. And it's getting harder and harder to be able to see it, because ultimately, and this is so pessimistic, but there's a beautiful struggle that I have embraced, that I believe this country is going to end the way it started. And if you start bad, you're going to end bad. It was started wrong. And so this idea that this is not who we are, this is not, as a Black person, this ain't who we are, but this is exactly this representation of who we have as a president. He is this person who's occupying that space. He embodies everything that was needed in order to found the country in the way that it was founded. He is a living, breathing embodiment of what America is, how America started. So it's a practice to be able to think through what it means for Black people, Black and brown people, to really be able to live, to thrive, to sustain ourselves. But freedom is creativity and love personified. And we find that joy. Just one last thing I want to say about why I love Black people so much. I love everybody, but I just want to say why I love Black people so much. Because someone's talking about the difference between happiness and joy, and that happiness is circumstantial, right? You're happy if something happens. Happiness is, and that joy is something that is within you that's not circumstantial. And the reason why I love Black people so much is that we have mastered joy. Because if we waited for circumstances to bring us joy, we would be on the ground. But we have been able to really bask in this joy that has brought us through. We're a proud, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people. And I will fight for our people to the day that I die. But yeah, just freedom to be, really, just to be.
The country will end the way it began. I don't know if I agree with it, but that's a powerful statement. And I've been thinking a lot about my ancestors and what they went through. I feel it a lot in my body. We carry, they say, and I believe that we carry with us some stuff that isn't necessarily ours, but that is instructive and information that we need to absorb, and then we can let it go. So I've been trying to learn the lessons from my ancestors and then let some things go. I'll let you think about whatever that means later. But thinking about what they went through, particularly the women, particularly my bloodline, particularly the women who were chronically and persistently raped and made to have babies from those rapes, particularly the folks that ran away, particularly the ones that were caught and brought back, thinking about what they went through, thinking about what we're going through. And I just believe in my heart, in my soul, in spirit, and everything that made me, that there is something else coming that we may not understand or be able to visualize right now, but that there is something different coming in the future. And that the work now is really making sure that the young folks are supported, making sure that the young people are uplifted, making sure that their work can continue, decentering ourselves and understanding that the change may be beyond us. And that's okay. And we've got to lean into that being okay. We may not be here to see it. Our job is to help these young folks right now until we die. Shout out to Ella Baker.
I think about the words of Ntozake Shange in relation to the nonprofit industrial complex, and also much largely America in general. I love, I can't use another sorry. I loved you on purpose. This was not happenstance that we are here today having this conversation. I hope, someone sees this and feel, feel permission to forgive themselves and where they are, start to begin or continue some type of a healing process. But I also want to put out that, I can't use another sorry. And I feel like right now what we're seeing with a lot of these like statements that have been put out that people are not being held accountable to, there is this sense of, we're sorry. We're just now, we didn't, it's like what Robyne was saying, you know what I mean? It's like, Trump is showing you like that really has been, and nobody is like, you really should not be confused at this point. You chose not to see, but like the perfect word that has been coming up for me lately to describe this country, but specifically this industry, since this is what this conversation has been about, is sullied. That's where we are, right? It is sullied. And in order to make it pure again, there does have to be this abolitionist framework of tearing down to rebuild it into what it should have been to begin with. Right now, it is sullied. With all of that being said, right? And this is kind of going back to what Toya was mentioning earlier about, thinking about our positionality or intersectionality as Black people working within these industries too. We loved you on purpose. We chose this as a career for a reason, right? We got into this. The arts were our passion, educating, not teaching, educating Black and brown youth is our passion. That's what we do. We love this on purpose. And now we are reclaiming that purpose. And if that makes you uncomfortable, or the statement that Robyne made about it's up to us to change it. You are not here by some mistake in the design of the universe. You are here for a reason. And if you're listening to this, you came across this for a reason. The time is now. And if you believe this, reach out to me. We can talk. I'm sure other people too are we have to do it individually, but then we have to do it collectively. It's when like-minded people start to get together that it's changed brick by brick, ripple by ripple by ripple. We loved you on purpose, and now we are reclaiming that purpose. And like Toya said, we may not all get there. We may not. But I know somewhere down the bloodline, somebody will see it. And that is the fight that we have to live for.
Well, with that, I just... I'd be crying over here. This is amazing. Thank you so much for, being real and sharing the space with me and each other, and giving us a not just a lot to think about, but a lot of work that we need to do and action that we can take. So thank you each, Robyne, Toya, Durell.
I'm crying on the podcast taping. What's going on? Come on, y'all.
Y'all got me healing tonight. Y'all got me healing tonight.
You say this is what whoever is watching needs. This is what I needed. We're all here for a reason on a Sunday. This conversation and more will be on the audio platform. And so you should subscribe if you haven't already to SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you've heard it from Toya saying we are duty bound. You've heard it from Robyne about we need to get free. And you've heard it from Durell about how we loved you on purpose. So we will not go back. We won't go back. We can't go back. Onwards. Now is my time to shine. Let's win it.
time comes, don't postpone it. When others doubt and out, you don't condone it. Truth be told, yourself is your toughest opponent. When your moment comes, grab hold and own it. Never let go, stand tall and hold tight. Overcoming obstacles is the objective in life. Doubters all the night, and until then you shine bright. Cause inside your head, on goes the light. Ignite.